Okay everyone, I am recording this in advance for you guys, so you'll notice some of my notes are blank, but by the time you get to this video, you should have these definitions filled in. You should have example 1 figured out, and then you and I are going to work through example 2 right now. So it says, Jill is buying inkjet paper and laserjet paper. She buys 8 more packages of inkjet paper than P packages of laserjet. So P is going to represent laserjet. Inkjet paper costs $4.95 per package, and laserjet costs $8 per package. So then we're going to break down what this expression right here means. 8p plus 4.95 times the quantity p plus 8. And I said that because p plus 8 is in parentheses. So let's break this down. If P is laserjet packages, that's talking about laserjet packages there and there. So what would we be multiplying by the number of packages by? Probably the cost. So in this scenario, 8 represents the cost of laserjet packages. So we want to get good at understanding what these coefficients and variables represent in an expression. That's our goal here. So the cost of laserjet, of a laserjet package, of one laserjet package. All right, so that's what that 8 represents. Let's see, and then we're adding something to it. So we're adding $4.95, oh, hint, hint, that must be a price, to this P plus 8. This P plus 8. Let's clean that up a little bit. Okay, so what we have here is a numerical value times this whole expression, this quantity. So do you see anything in this problem that refers to plus 8? Well, you should, because it says it right here. She buys 8 more packages of inkjet paper than laserjet paper. So if P is laserjet paper packages, then P plus 8 must represent inkjet paper. So this is what you would get of inkjet paper right there. So that entire expression can represent that one value. All right, and then what would we multiply the number of inkjet packages by? Well, the price. So $4.95 is the cost of inkjet packages. So now we've kind of represented each part of this. We have talked about the 8p, representing $8 for every laserjet package, plus $4.95, the cost of inkjet package, of one inkjet package, times the number of inkjet packages. And if you add those two values, this value plus this value, that must be the total cost of what Jill needs to buy. So the entire blue expression is the total cost of what Jill needs to buy. So really breaking down what coefficients represent and what these operations mean as well. It's going to be very helpful in your post-work or homework for this section. You'll notice in my notes we have this little line right here, and that's actually where we're going to write summaries for our notes, but I'm assuming that you've probably gone on to another page, and that's fine. I just didn't want to waste this space, so I have gone ahead and added this. So make sure you pause this video and write this down for example 3, and I might not have said this, but when we started example 2, you should have paused and written everything down first. All right, example 3. Suppose X and Y give the populations of 2 different cities where X is greater than Y and Y is greater than 0. Compare the expressions, which is greater. So, really important information here. So that means that X is greater than Y. So we want to make sure we have a note of that because that was the greater than symbol. And also, Y is greater than 0. So this really just means there's no negative numbers, because if Y is greater than 0 and X is greater than Y, they both must be positive. So what I like to do in these scenarios is use real numbers to help myself figure this out. So if I pick a value for X, let's say 5. For this to be true, X has to be bigger than Y, so I'm going to choose something smaller than X. For Y, I'm going to choose 4, because that still holds true for this inequality here, which is 5 is greater than 4, right? That's true. So then, let's see what happens. We would have 5 over 4, and then 4 over 5, because I'm just replacing these numbers, or these variables with the values. So which one is larger? 5/4 is greater than 1. 4/5 is less than 1, so this is the larger number. So then I need to remember which expression 5/4 came from. It came from this one. So this is the greater expression. And so you might want to go back then and write X over Y is greater than Y over X. And just working on some of those comparisons. So there was a constraint, so tying in that vocabulary, there was a constraint in this problem, and the constraint is this. It gives us some restriction or some additional information in the problem. And so you could also say that this is a constraint as well, because it limits how X and Y relate to each other. All right, so now we are towards the end of this lesson and wrapping up. At this point, you should be able to answer how do you interpret algebraic expressions in terms of their context. And you talk about how the operations play an impact. You talk about how the coefficients have meaning. So really, when you're answering this essential question, really checking that you're using the vocabulary in your answer just to reinforce that knowledge. You should now have your notes finished, and you can move on to the lesson 1 homework and exit ticket.